How's it going, my man?
I'm good, thanks. Good. What's it like? What's it like in Canada for the pandemic?
Well, right now we're actually north of the city right now. We're in what we call cottage country out by the lakes. And we're kind of taking a few days a little away from our work life.
The pandemic's opening up. It's getting better here. We were like last month, we were behind the curve and looking like idiots. And now we're almost ahead of the curve and looking like we're the leaders almost of getting the vaccine out. So our percentages are going really down in the COVID numbers and going up on the vaccinated numbers. So we're actually finally starting. We ended lockdown 3 days ago. Was it 12?
Yeah.
We up until June 12th, we had lockdown, and now we are opening up finally. So there's a small light at the end of the tunnel, but we're being cautious. We're not the kind of people that, we're just being cautious.
Yeah.
Sounds like your country's doing a better job than ours. Our vaccines are high, but so is our new infection rate, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, we were gonna say, like, we keep saying shows opening up. Like, our agent is in UK, has got a show going on like tomorrow.
Yeah.
A couple different things, and of course, download starts Friday, doesn't it? Or was that is that today? That's today.
A special test event.
Yeah, doesn't it start today?
It's Thursday.
Oh, tomorrow. It starts tomorrow. Man, I wish I was there. That'd be so awesome.
Anyway, before we get started, I'd like to give you a big thank you for agreeing to this interview. I discovered you during the pandemic on YouTube, and I've been a big fan ever since.
Thank you.
To music.
Thanks, Zen.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
I see this logo for Unwanted Life. Is this is your is this a podcast? I'm sorry, I didn't read the email. I'm not informed. Skye doesn't, not blaming you. But what are we doing right now? Is it a radio interview or podcast? What am I doing?
I'm a mental health and invisible disabilities blogger. And so I chose Unwanted Life because that's how I felt growing up. And I thought I'd go with it.
Interesting. All right. That's fair.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Cool. And sorry, please, what's your name again? I'm Skye. Perfect. We're all on track now.
Well, we've been doing music videos like crazy. So we finished the record. We started getting into the behind the scenes work to put out a record, which is, all the things from product development and figuring out how the merch is going to be done to online strategy. And so there's been a lot of work. So I feel
lots of ups and downs, though.
Lots of ups and downs.
Because of sorry to cut out, but because of the pandemic, there's days that we didn't feel very, what's the word, motivated.
Yeah.
There was especially the first couple months, it was hard to feel motivated or even like it even mattered, or that we shouldn't. I felt wrong, being
worrying
so focused
so
on
much
our
about business,
just trying to make money off our music or something like that, or put it out. I felt like the world was just so, like, Skye had the news on half the time. I couldn't even focus on music for a while. But once we got through it, I felt like, we got pretty serious we realized that if, that's what we do, is write music. So I felt like the music videos were everything. They were so important to us to put them out and try to connect. And being signed to Napalm, they have a much wider range of people to get it to. So I felt like we had to put all our time into, not just one or two. Skye's still working on an idea right now for numbers. What is this? That'll be the 7th video for this.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've been working pretty hard on the videos. That was our main thing, to keep focused and not go as crazy.
Yeah, it definitely gave us like some good purpose and artistic way to channel our time, because
it was also interesting because we didn't have a crew as well.
Yeah, it was just like the two of us filming everything.
Yeah, it was Skye had to take on even more of this is how we're going to figure this out.
Yeah, and then whenever I could, we would get as much done in a small amount of time. So I would be like, okay, this weekend we've figured out that the guys in the band are going to come down. And so we would try to fit in as much filming with them as possible in a short amount of time. And then we could take that footage and go back and edit.
Everybody could quarantine again. Yeah. And it was difficult, but we figured it out. We got a lot of cool music videos out. I think we built all the sets ourselves. So it was pretty time consuming. Yeah, we do everything ourselves. Pretty much we have a very small, tight-knit team. But when it comes to building the sets and editing the videos, that's pretty much just Skye and I that have to deal with that crap. Do we what? Sorry.
Experience stage fright.
Stage fright. I've experienced stage fright once. What about you?
I remember the first time I had to sing in a singing competition, and I was absolutely terrified.
Yeah.
And I think ever since I got over that, I was about like 11 or 12, and it was really intimidating because this really small room, and there was just like all these people just staring, and there's no lights, right? It's just stark white. Like you can see everyone's faces. They're all sitting just like staring at you, and you see the judges panel. There's like 5 of them just judging you. And I was just like, the idea of putting myself in that position to be judged like that, I was like, I am absolutely terrified. I don't want to know if I'm good or bad, because at that point, you know, being good at singing was so important to me that if someone had told me at 11 years old that I wasn't good at it, it was going to like shatter me. So I was so scared that these judges were going to say that I wasn't good at my dream, because I really, really wanted to be good at singing.
Mine was like when I was 10 or 11 as well.
Yeah, you remember that moment?
My mom made me go. I had done okay in some like local musicals. Like mom was getting me into musicals when I was like, you know, 9 or 10. And I played David and Goliath in like your local, I was Burlington, in Burlington, Ontario. We played this local theater, and I played David against the big giant. And it did so well that it was on TV, and my mom thought I was like the star. And I was like, Mom, I'm not a star, I'm 10. And she took me into our major city, Toronto, Ontario, and had me try out for like an off-Broadway musical because they wanted 10-year-olds. And I had to walk in. So she got me on this train. We drove into the city, and I went into this like huge, beautiful theater, this huge theater with this huge stage. And there's like 6 people sitting in these seats. And there's all these kids that have all done this before. They're all done these, even at their age, this is nothing to them. They all have their headshots. I don't even have a headshot, but it was an open casting call. They were trying anybody. So they said I had to go on stage and I had to dance. They wanted to see me dance. And that's one thing I'd never done. And I was like, I don't know how to dance. I'm 10. And my mom was like, go up there and kill it. And then like even with all my confidence who I was, I watched a bunch of kids that were taller, more slender, all these different things. Had a dance routine had done prepared. All this. Yeah, I'd done all this routines and had everything prepared that I was like, no way. And so I'm standing in the middle of the stage, and they were like, dance. And I didn't know what to do. So I just put my arms out like this and just went around in circles for a minute. And then they just told me it was okay. Thanks so much for coming. And then I cried outside. And I didn't cry because I didn't get the part. I cried because
that specific dance.
I cried because my mom didn't listen to me when I asked her that I didn't want to go up there and do that. I wasn't ready to do something like that. I was more disappointed in my mother for not listening than I was about the stupid thing.
Right. You're like, this is going to be so embarrassing, Mom. Please don't make me do this.
Yeah, it was a rough one, man.
Oh, man.
As embarrassing as it may be, apparently kept you going, pursuing music. So
it pushed me harder to play guitar and not do dance moves.
That's when his dance career ended and his guitar playing career started.
Done being Michael Jackson. I wanted to be Slash.
Yeah. So I think it's weird how when you're young and you don't quite understand what good is yet, because you haven't been around enough to really understand like what makes somebody like an excellent dancer and an okay dancer. And that's why kids are so free of inhibitions, because they really think that they're a good dancer, even though they're just acting crazy. And I think that is such an interesting time in your life where you start to realize if you're good at something or bad at something. And Matt obviously learned he was really bad at dancing that day. And I learned that I was really good at singing. And that's one of the things that, thank goodness, those teachers didn't tell me.
So yes, we've had stage fright, if that's what you're asking.
Because then maybe I would have turned into a guitar player or something. You know what I mean?
Oh,
what's wrong with that? Shots fired.
Well, we have a kind of a family dynamic in the way that we are. It's kind of like Matt and I are like the parents and the other band members are like the kids. And so sometimes it's like what mom says goes or what dad says goes. And it's cute because they really actually like when I can be like, okay, I know the directions. Like you guys don't have to worry about like figuring out like where to go, or Matt has like the tour manager stuff down, so they could just be like, hey Matt, like when are we supposed to be on stage, and Matt knows the answers. So
we are not the kind of band that has blowouts ever on stage. We have the blowouts off, not blowouts, but like even right now we're going through the first, we just had 5 amazing years with our drummer, and he unfortunately he's not into the vaccination right now yet. So we're having some issues, and we understand, everybody to each his own. But like, those are the kind of situations we run into. It's not fighting. Like he literally messaged us and said, I love you guys. I've done the research, but for some reason I don't feel that I'm comfortable with getting vaccinated yet. And I was like, well, how are you going to travel? And he's like, well, I'm not sure. So we're really in this. So those kind of things we run into, but that's not a fight or not loving each other. It's just one of those things I'm going to have to deal with. But we've never really had any fights on the road. We're kind of a stable family. We want everybody to respect each other. I'm pretty hard on people sometimes when we're working hard, but then again, I also give everybody the respect I think I deserve. I don't think I'm rude to people. So we don't really have that. We've never really had what some bands have, which we've heard of, some chaotic blowouts from bands. We don't get that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it is really, I feel like, a family dynamic, and everyone kind of knows what they're, what they need to do to get along with each other, and things that annoy Matt, we all know what those things are, so we stay away from it. And like, we're really good at like figuring out how each other works in order to, like, we all want it to be like a good aura.
Yeah, and I think that we try to staple that in right from whoever's working with us. Like we've had 4 drummers, 2 bass players. Like it depends on who's even available. Sometimes we've got our staple guys now, but everybody has their different life. Everybody has to do this. But right from the start, when we go on tour and we're like, hey everybody, we're about to go live in a vehicle for 2 months together.
Everybody be respectful.
Everybody has to be respectful. This is the rules. This is how we all do it. We all help each other. And it's really hard to have blowouts when you can think mentally like that and not be selfish. You don't get any blowouts.
Matt has really good like rules. For instance, if we just say at the beginning of the tour, like, hey, if we're at a truck stop and you have to pee, sometimes we're going to be moving on right away. So don't like just sit in the vehicle until like 20 minutes go by and then go and run and go pee, and you're holding everybody up. Like, always
everybody gets right away.
Everyone gets off the bus at the right time. And things like that can be like where, Matt would get really frustrated if he's always trying to drive and he's always waiting for people to, little things like that can add up. Like putting your name on phone chargers so that you're not fighting over whose phone charger it is. Like simple things that you can do ahead of time to just make sure that there's no problems going forward is really, really needed.
A lot of forward planning and some boundaries just to make sure everyone's happy.
Exactly. Just hanging out with each other. I think we like to do what we're doing now, which is see a lake and
Skye wanted
enjoy
when the
sunshine.
When our last tour was February 2019, and we had just done like about 7 months of the year of touring off and on. It was a lot of touring. And Skye at the end of the February tour was like, I don't want to see the road for like 3 months. I need time off for real. I need to mentally get a little bit more stable again, because it can be really punishing every single day. People are trying to give you drinks, you're trying to sell merch, you're trying to sing. It can get tiring. So she was like, I need 3 months off. And then like we got home, and 2 weeks later the pandemic hit, and Skye's had more than 3 months off since then. So,
a lot more.
But most of the time when we're finished doing the recordings or this, that, all we want to, it's nice to try and balance and have like a normal, like a couple days off of not, like even right now we're up at the cottage and we're supposed to be working on a music video. We're supposed to be doing more things. But we messaged our manager and was like, we mentally really need to just be away for 4 or 5 days and try not to think, besides from when we have an interview, too much about the band right now, just to feel balanced.
Yeah. It's true. It's because Matt and I live together and we're in a band and it's what we love to do as well as our job. It's so intertwined to our identities and we think about it so much. We'll be every night at dinner thinking about band stuff. It doesn't leave our brains. We wake up thinking, we go to bed thinking about it. And it can be so tiring when you start to realize like, hey, there's a lot of other things in life other than just like that. And it's important to have
mind you, we are on a record cycle, so it's harder. We're trying to do our business. We don't want to sound like we don't want to think about ourselves, but we think, you know, it's like,
if you're constantly thinking about strategy, like why aren't we doing more here? Why aren't we doing this there?
Where can we do there? What can we do this?
Why haven't we been in this radio, you know, station? How do we get into that? Who do we network with? Like, it can be just tiring to always be like the dog chasing its own tail in a way. It's like, just like
sit back,
take
a breather. Let's write a good song again. Like, let's not worry about some of this. It really gets tiring. I'm sure, you know, everybody has it with the social media this day, with the numbers. Everybody's, it's the numbers this, the numbers that. I'm like, really can play with you. So when we're not tour, or when we get some weeks off, we really try to take a week off. We even try right now, like, you know, we have friends up here too. Francesca Ludicar does like all our art with us for our stuff. And same thing, we were like, why don't you just come up to the cottage and like just try not to talk about business? And all we end up doing is drinking and talking about business still, because that's just what we all do. We live for it, right? So it is what it is.
Well,
good.
like you said,
like we said, we're
trying. We're not as successful.
we're not perfect, but because we're at a cottage and like our gear's not with us, all that stuff, it's actually still nice, relaxing. It's nice to have some drinks and just talk about stuff. It's going to happen, but we're not too it's been good for me. I've loved the past 3 days now.
Yeah, it's nice to get a little outdoor time too.
Yeah, we got some swimming in. I've been swimming. That's helpful since I gained weight during pandemic.
I mean, who didn't gain weight during the pandemic?
Yeah.
So you said you've been going swimming. I'm assuming that's in the local lakes, or have you got your own swimming pool at the cottage?
No, there's a lake.
Yeah.
Nice cold lake. Yesterday was chilly.
It was cold.
But it made me feel alive.
Oh, lots of different things. I think I go through phases. I don't have like an all-time favorite list. It's like depending on what I'm into at the moment. And recently I went back and started listening to the Cranberries because that was something that my parents played a lot around the house growing up
for like weeks, right?
And it's really been giving me some like good vibes of like remembering my childhood and stuff. So I kind of recently rediscovered them in a way. Ordered it on vinyl, yeah.
And the shirts, you're really supporting right now.
Yeah, totally, really sporting. But there's like, for instance, Matt and I have really been digging into the Common Dreads Enter Shikari record because we've been fans of theirs actually more recently. And the more you kind of go back into someone's catalog and kind of dig in, I think that's really fun when you haven't discovered older pieces of music that they've done. So that's really kind of like a fun one that we've gone back to. And then
I've been listening to a lot of Calypso music lately.
Yeah, Calypso is
Harry
good by
Belafonte.
the water.
Yeah.
And also I put on like an 80s like kind of like
Police, you had a serious
Genesis.
80s jam yesterday. It was like Huey Lewis in the News, Genesis, Police, Clash. It was really good. There was a bunch of that going on.
Yeah.
Favorite track to relax to?
I don't know. There's so many. I just change all the time.
I think I can't
put on some Enya.
For me, it's anything from Harry Belafonte. Favorite track, that's hard. There's like so many ones on there, but definitely if you sit back.
Take your body on time. Okay, I believe you.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody hasn't heard Harry Belafonte,
from Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice featured a couple of his early songs, and if you go back into that collection of that stuff, it's just all great calypso fun tunes with some great lyrics, and they just are perfect to jam to when you're relaxing. They really are.
Cool.
Yeah. And yeah, I change mine all the time. I don't really have like a go-to relaxing song, and I usually put on music to like hype myself up.
Yeah,
too.
sometimes I don't really put on music. I'm relaxing, but I'm still listening to like something pretty heavy sometimes too.
Totally.
So we were listening to the new Atreyu record yesterday as well. Like literally cranked
on the way up
here,
yeah.
And we were quite relaxed.
Self-care?
Yeah.
What do we do? What
Yeah,
else
we
do
do for self-care. Like for me, it's yoga once in a while, some uh love my diffusers with different scents, or lighting candles is like a really good like chilling out night. Sometimes I'll go around. We have all these different lights. Like I have this lantern, this cool like rainbow light my sister gave me. And one of my favorite things to do at the end of the night is to just kind of like reset the mood in the house. So I'll put on like the nice lights, the candles, the diffuser, and like that's my favorite, to just like zone out and have this kind of like nice little relaxing space that's telling me to like, you know, stop stressing, like take your feet off, just like relax for the end of the night. You're not working anymore. So that kind of sets, I think, having those defined moments of like, this is work, this is relaxing time, this is when I'm trying to wind down. I think that really helps so that your brain doesn't like feel like it's jumping all over the place, you know?
I like to play guitar. I'll grab my guitar. I like to put my phone down. That's the way that I really watch my mental health the most, is when I know I'm starting to really peak, like where I'm getting frustrated, where I'm like, oh, why the number's this, or I'm checking this out, or this about the band, or I just am overthinking things that happens. The biggest part of my mental health is just to put my phone down, turn off the airplane part or whatever it's called, and try not to look at everybody's life, because when you're scrolling and looking at everybody's life, all that kind of stuff can get in your head in this weird way. And I find that that's the worst part of my mental health that happened over this pandemic, was having too much time to scroll through shit. And I was like, man, this stuff is so stupid. It's not healthy unless it's bettering me. I don't know why I'm looking at it, but yet I still was. So that's my big one for mental health, is I pick the phone up when I want to, not when it tells me to. I don't have I have no notifications. People message me all the time to chat. And if I'm looking at my phone at the time, then they get an answer. If they don't, it could be 2 days from now, because I just don't check my notifications right now. It's not healthy for me. So that's one of my main things.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I wish I could do that. I pretty much seem to be glued to my phone at the moment, I think.
I mean, I understand it. It's completely understandable, but I do think that I'm not the youngest guy in the world. I've got up there. So I lived at one point without a cell phone that did all this. And I enjoyed it the more I think about it, and how I lived. And when I wanted to hang out with a friend, I didn't just text. I actually went and hung out with a friend, and I spent real physical time with that person. And that doesn't happen as much anymore. There's a lot of things that when I reflect, I go, man, this is not healthy for me. And I'm scared to see what the next 20 years is going to hold for generations before that are to come, like of how to deal with
who haven't
situations.
even had the experience of what it's like to live in a world where you've had a lot more,
and they're so
face-to-face meetings, and
they're so pushed by it.
Yeah,
they're so
like I remember one of my favorite things that would happen when I was like a young, like growing up teen or preteen, I was thinking about how I used to, when you'd find somebody, whether at school or you'd be hanging out at the baseball field, and someone you would just start a conversation with, and you would just start talking, and you just like fell into this really, really like deep conversation with somebody. I remember whenever I was growing new friends or trying to, meet new guys, when I was younger, having a deep conversation with someone was one of those moments that I just love to seek out and find those people that I could connect with. And I think that seeing someone's face and having that type of connection isn't as popular anymore. Like people don't have like tons of deep conversations face to face the way that I remember I used to, where I would meet a friend and I'd be like, wow, like we should be great friends, because you'd have those bonding moments. I just feel sad if people don't have that. It's all either over text or, the internet. And to me, those are really important moments to like make good connections with people.
Definitely. I remember in the 90s when I was still a teen, I loved those deep conversations with my friends on the street. Just play football all day, talk all night, break into the farmer's field and just look at the stars and just live the moment.
Yeah.
And I think it's we all, here I am talking about this, we know it's necessarily not the healthiest, but here we are using social media to have a conversation with yourself. So it's not like we can't balance. It's finding the balance. I think the new generation's parents have to be, not to sound like I'm not punk rock, but parents need to be really on top of making sure there's kids try to understand that there's more to life than just looking at a screen.
Oh, definitely. But it's hard, because once your kid's got a phone, what can you do, really?
That's the whole
Yeah.
thing, is trying to stop them too early. It's weird because I don't even want to get into this. Like, it's too big of a conversation, actually.
Definitely.
Ah, I think so. I think
This record
listen,
drop a
I
couple
think,
times. We've had some hate.
yeah, well, I think people underestimate, when you're online and you make a comment like, "Oh, this is terrible," or "Can't believe people are liking this band," or typical ones that I see people make all the time of like hating on like Nickelback or Justin Bieber. People just make these general comments and thinking that like it's no way, Justin Bieber would read this, so it's not like whatever, I'm gonna diss this and that. But I think when people write on our videos, they don't realize that I'm actually reading all this information because I really care about growing our business and making sure that I know who our fans are, staying connected. So when I see comments, about how, they're looking at my body or thinking because I'm a chick, I can't do stuff, or, derogatory terms for women, like
Lots of misogyny.
to
We've had some
me,
misogyny
that is really
over the years.
can bum me out because I'm such a huge fan of thinking that this community is a very accepting place to be, that we all look out for each other. We all sing the same lyrics at these concerts. So when people take a negative attitude to someone wanting to be part of their community and looking at it like, instead of an accepting way, they kind of look at it as a negative. Like, to me, that's really upsetting because I used to tell everyone how you need to come to shows because people are the most accepting, awesome people when you go to rock shows. But then when you see all those comments, it makes you question that community that you love and want to be a part of. So I think people don't realize that it's not only pushing me away, it's pushing other females like myself who are looking at that video and saying like, "Oh, that's cool that she's doing that." And they read a comment of a guy saying how it's,
she should remove her mole.
Remove my mole.
Remove her mole, and then she'll start doing well in the music industry. Comments like that are
and then
fucked.
Another young girl who goes, "Wow, I'm not even as close to like as confident as this woman who's doing this, and I really want to aspire to be like that." But that's the comments that I might get if I put myself out there. And that stops a young girl sometimes from thinking that she can do it too, because somebody's even critiquing someone that's giving it their best shot, and that's really sad to me.
What's the biggest thing is like it's amazing how like we put out this record right now and we're really excited about how much traction it's got. We've had so much love. But like on Bystander, you go to like our music video on YouTube, it's got like 600 or almost 600,000 views or something in the past couple months. It's got like 16 or 17,000 likes, but those 2,000 dislikes and hates outweigh it mentally.
Yeah.
No matter how much you have all these amazing people that love you and will write you and tell you you're great, you have to, between them, you still have to read through the shit. And the shit will mentally screw you up more than any of that good stuff will help you.
It's like it's
you crazy.
Get it. It's like one step forward, two steps back, right? Like every time you see the hate, you take two steps back.
And even if it's the smallest amount of population, you just wonder, why do you have to be so cruel? You don't need to, somebody doesn't have to like something. I don't fucking like this. This isn't up my alley. But you attack, there's an attack that happened. And those people we don't want as fans anyways. We already get that. But it's still a shame to think they go out of their way to do that. That means they're messed up. Their heads, they're bullies. They have a worse life. They have this terrible life that they have to go on and not only not hate something, but they have to ridicule as well. That's somebody that's got something wrong with them. You have to feel for these people in some way, but it can mentally strain us no matter how well our band's doing, how much tours we've got. There's just nothing worse than being fat shamed or something. Skye, somebody's like, "Skye, you need to go back to the gym." Like, she's gorgeous. Like, why would you write that to her? Like, if you don't like the song, you don't like the song. You're literally trying to hurt her. And that stuff sucks. That stuff really sucks. It makes no sense at all.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we love to believe this kind of alternative community is a lot more embracing and loving, but there's still a dark underbelly, like it gets any other realm or any other kind of community, unfortunately.
And the one thing though is and I try to remind Skye all the time and myself is like, it's such even though they're out there hating us, that's just never going to be our fan anyways. So it doesn't, just fuck them, just weed through that shit and we'll take all the ones that like us.
And to also know that a lot of the hate gets overblown too. Like the type of people that have that in their hearts are more likely to comment, and the people that are actually happy with their lives don't even comment. So it's like, there's so many more, positive people out there. So it sucks to see the ones that are negative get in the way of that, you know?
True. But like you said, these negative comments can eat away at you from the inside. It's kind of things that rattle around in your head.
It's
So,
weird. It does. It does. It really does. Somebody's like, I love your band. Can't wait to see you next. And you should just be like, that's great. What a great support. And then somebody else is like, you guys are suck. The girl, this and that. They say something that's so derogatory that for some reason all day it's rattling around my brain going, how can I fix that? Like, instead of who gives a fuck what that person says? Like, I don't care. And that's how I try not to, but it can get in your head and you're like, why is this one comment bugging me so much? All these other people have nothing but love for us. And it's just makes, it's something that's very, very, it's something everybody should pay attention to and try to tell. We have our neighbor was telling us, she's a 15-year-old girl. She was telling, were you with me when that happened? 15-year-old girl is online and she's being body shamed. She's 15 years old. Like, leave her the fuck alone, people. Like, it's just not right. That's not, it's not good for anybody's mental health.
definitely. How is she doing with being body shamed by these random individuals online?
Her mom, we talked to her mom, and her boyfriend's a really good guy. They were all very supportive. She seems to be cool. I've told her, just, if you're reading this shit, that just means these kids are just trying to be bullies. They're at least paying attention. Like, you're getting, I don't know what you want from it. If you're going to put photos out there, you're going to have to be okay with seeing somebody try to tear you down. And you just got to get your head in that space that it doesn't matter. You're trying to put it out there to reach the positive, and you just have to weed through it. And she's doing okay.
Good. So how are you guys doing with having to read through some of the worst dregs of humanity commenting your video?
We've had a couple nights like where Skye was just like, I had no clue that these people existed, and I don't know if I even want to be around this community ever. And where I've just been like, I completely understand, but we're not around that community. We're never been around that community. We don't tour with that community. That community doesn't come and see us play. They just want to come online and be assholes. So a couple of times we had, especially in some weaker moments of this pandemic, playing with our depression a bit. There was a couple of times where we're like, fuck, I don't know if we like what we've done or not. But we've had way too much good reception. And when you get your head clear, you're just like, it's a couple bad days of bugging us. The rest is pretty optimistic for us.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's letting that logic kind of sink in again, to be like, these people don't need to affect my life whatsoever. And I can dismiss this and choose to let this not affect me. And sometimes it is tough as artists. We are emotional beings, and we approach things in an emotional way first, and then kind of have to stop and step back and think logically about why you're feeling a certain way. And
I'm worried about some fucknut that body shamed me. Oh, look at the fat guitar player. And I'm like, oh, how do I better get losing some weight so this fucking guy likes me. What the fuck? I shouldn't care about that shit. Fuck that person. I don't care if he comes to the shows. There's other people that care. And you really got to tell yourself that over and over again, to just be like, I'm more powerful than this.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'm glad that it didn't put you off making music. It could be a real shame if you gave up because of people like this just being make themselves feel good.
Never give up on music. We'll never do that. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, like, for instance, I always write about the struggle within. I write about it all the time. I write about how you overcome some of the worst battles you have to overcome are just the ones in your own mind, to get over like certain things you feel like you can do or can't do, or, like about yourself or don't like. And
the big one in pandemic is, I think there's a lot of emotion in Skye's writing with her lyrics. I don't mean to cut you off, but I think Skye doesn't like to be as vulnerable as her lyrics are when she's talking about it. But there's, I see what Skye goes through and what she's talking about when she's writing. And Skye faces there's we're all facing stuff that's going on, but we get ups and downs all the time. But, the world isn't always great. Right now, Skye's really into all these documentaries that are showing us, what's the one? Seascape, was it? Seaspiracy. Skye watched this. Skye intakes all this stuff, and then she, writes about these all in the lyrics. If you listen to it, and I think that's, people can kind of connect and understand that we're definitely not just a party band when it comes to writing. We like our music to feel inspiring and upbeat, but I think that we have some pretty serious topics about mental well-being, and I think it connects with people. Songs like Brave, Free Yourself, these weren't just be brave. This was something like meant to help people get through something when they need it, you know?
Yeah, all those lyrics are definitely like true to life.
Fighter.
And they feel like the only way I can even write about, you know, kind of being or make myself be strong is almost using music as a tool to find my confidence and to find, like, I'm almost like it's a mantra when I'm singing. Anybody telling me I'm a fighter, I'm literally telling myself that so that I feel stronger and feel like a warrior. And those things help me become the confident person that I can project to everyone, because I have that way of processing my emotions through music. And everybody needs their way, and it might not always be through music. It could be through art or poetry or whatever, but it is, for me, a complete intertwined thing. Is the better, if I'm making music, the better I feel, you know?